Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty.
What is going on, guys? Crafty here with yet another YouTube video. And in today's video, we are going to do Crafty reviews number 2. So if you didn't watch the first one, I reviewed r/wholesome memes. Pretty good video. Be sure to check that out. So before the video starts, I just wanted to say thank you for all the support on the last video. The support was amazing, and I also would like to say that I have an editor who helped me edit that video, and so I want to shout him out. He is War on YouTube, and so I'll link his channel in the description. So on to Crafty Reviews number 2. So I think I said earlier, but today we're going to be reviewing Rainbow Six Siege. So the background gameplay for this is going to be Rainbow Six Siege, just to give you a glimpse at what the game looks like. So I'm going to start off by kind of giving an overview of Rainbow Six Siege. So Rainbow Six Siege is a tactical FPS search and destroy game. So the basic premise of the game is that you're either the attackers who have a diffuser and are trying to plant a diffuser on one of the two bombs, or you're the defenders who are trying to stop the attackers from planting a diffuser on one of the two bombs. And you switch between every game, so a game is usually anywhere from like 3 to the ranked games can get up to 9 rounds. So they're decently long. So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about while reviewing this game is just some of my dislikes within the game. Like, I personally really enjoy Rainbow Six Siege. It's one of my top games. I would probably put it in like a top 10 all time for the favorite games I've played. But I have some issues with the game, and so I'm just going to kind of go through those first, and I'll talk about some of the things that I like. So, the first thing that is kind of a dislike, but also a like for a lot of people, is just how sweaty Rainbow Six Siege is. And this is kind of a controversial, or not really controversial, but it's something that is talked in about a lot in the Rainbow Six community. And that's because this can sometimes be so annoying when you're just trying to sit down and have a casual game of Siege and you run into like some super sweaty like tryhard in your casual lobbies. It sucks. But at the same time, this is also like a super good thing for the game because it like relays a competitiveness to the game. So if you're somebody who's super competitive in games, then you're going to like Rainbow because that's just how the game is. It's built to be competitive. And so when you're playing casual, this can kind of suck because there are people that carry that over to casual, and that just isn't fun. So my second point is the lack of game modes, and I think this is a huge turn off for Rainbow Six Siege. So they have their ranked playlist, they have an unranked playlist that follows ranked rules and is just the same thing, and then they have a quick match which is like casual, and this is just like if don't want to play ranked or unranked, and it's search and destroy, but it also has 2 different game modes that are hostage, where the attackers have to extract a hostage, and then there's secure area, where the attackers have to try to secure the area. So they're just kind of variations on the core gameplay. So I mean, I like those game modes. I don't have an issue with them. And then the final playlist is Newcomer, which is just the search and destroy standard bomb game mode, but you have to be under level 50 to play. So there really just isn't much variety in this game. They have brought some limited time modes that I think are really fun, and I wish some of them were around longer, and I think this is just an issue that you get bored of the same old game over and over again, and I completely understand that can be really frustrating. So the third thing I want to talk about with the dislikes is just how much this game is not very uh, geared towards new players. Like, if you're a new player in this game, it is the literal worst. Like, being a new player in Rainbow Six Siege is awful. So, there's a couple things that contribute to this, and the first thing is the maps. So, there is a lot of maps within this game, and they're all fairly complicated, and that can make it really hard to learn the game if you just struggle to learn the maps. Like, that is awful. And I know this is an issue with lots of games, but I think Rainbow really struggles from this because map knowledge oftentimes determines whether you get a kill or don't get a kill or die or don't die. And that can be really, really frustrating as a new player when you die because you just don't know the map as well as your opponent. And that is awful. I also wanted to talk about the sweatiness factor for new players, and it's even worse because as a new player, you would think, oh, let's just play newcomer, which I touched on briefly, but newcomer is just kind of a cesspool of Smurfs, people who have, you know, decided to make a new account, and so they're like, oh, I'll play newcomer to go against the new players. And so newcomer really isn't new players, it's the same thing, and that sucks. Um, I also think that this issue, the sweatiness issue and the new player issue, takes much, those two things combined take much more issue on PC than they do on console. I think console is much more new player friendly in terms of sweatiness, just because it just isn't as sweaty on console, and that's just because of the way the game is. It's just not. So yeah, the second thing for new player attraction that is kind of bad is the operators. And this is something that as you play the game more, you'll learn to love. The operators in this game are what make the game. But when you think about it, there is 29 operators on attack and 29 operators on defense. It is really, really hard for a new player to figure out what each operator does. Now, I think Ubisoft, the developers for Rainbow Six Siege, did a pretty good job for helping new players with this issue by not giving them any operators to start with, unless you buy like the deluxe edition or any edition that comes with operators. If you just buy the standard edition of Rainbow Six Siege, you just get nobody. So you have to play the game and learn the game first before you can buy characters, which I think is a smart move, but it also just kind of sucks because you want to be able to play different characters. Now, what part of why I think the characters can be really confusing for new players is just because they all are so unique. And there really isn't any way of explaining what each character does. So, for example, if you want to buy the newest character that comes out, there is nothing really explaining what that character does unless you play them first. And you might buy that character and grind out for like a couple weeks or maybe a week or so to try to get this character and then buy them and absolutely hate them and think that they're terrible. And that's really frustrating to have spent all that time grinding a game to get a character you don't even like. Like, that is awful. And so I think that there needs to be a better way. There needs to be like a tutorial for each character, or at least, I mean, this is another issue, is that there isn't a tutorial for the game. I mean, that's another issue for new players. There really isn't anything out there saying this is how you play the game. Like, their tutorial is basically just their PVE, which is just called Terrorist Hunt. It's where you play a character and you have to fight terrorists. That it's not even close to as realistic as playing a real game of Rainbow Six Siege, and I think that that just really doesn't help new players who are trying to get to learn and play Siege. It just doesn't resemble the multiplayer at all. I think T Hunt can be helpful for the top players to learn their mechanics, but for a new player, it just, I mean, it can be helpful, but it just does not help enough to be considered really a tutorial. And I think this is a big turnoff is that you have to learn to play the game with while you're playing against people who are really sweaty and have been playing the game for 3 years. And I I have some experience with this because I played on console when I was new, and like I said, it isn't as bad on console, but on PC it is really bad, and I think that's a huge turnoff for people trying to get into Rainbow Six Siege, and uh, also something I mentioned earlier, the lack of game modes for new players is also a huge turnoff. Um, so the final thing I wanted to talk about with new players is the mechanics of the game. Now, this game has some mechanics that are somewhat unique. Like the destructibility in this game is completely unique to basically any other game. Um, you can basically break through most walls and floors and to get crazy angles. And I think that also can be really frustrating for a new player like trying to learn to play the game. And I think one of the biggest examples of that is bullet holes. So it's a strategy when for topper or upper ranked players or just more skilled players to put a single hole in a wall and peek through it and get kills through it. And as a new player, there is nothing more frustrating than getting bullet hole peeked or getting spawn peeked where somebody's just peeking out of a window and shoots you from your spawn. Like those two things combined, just they are so annoying to be a new player and experience those things, and that sucks for new players to have to go through. As you progress throughout the game, if you stick with the game for long enough, all of these complaints I've had for new players, like the maps, the operators, the mechanics, the sweatiness, is somewhat like that. But those three things in particular, the maps, the operators, and the mechanics, become a thing that you love in Rainbow Six Siege when you learn the game and figure out how to play it very well. It's what makes Rainbow Six Siege, and so I think that's kind of the struggle for Ubisoft in Rainbow Six Siege is just that if they change some of those things, then they're gonna make the people who have been playing Rainbow Six Siege for a long time mad because they like those things, but at the same time, these things are not fun for new players to deal with, and so yeah, it's just kind of a balance of it's kind of a struggle for balance within the game. They have to figure out how to balance it for new players or how to balance it for the people who have been playing for a long time. But at the very least, I really think that Ubisoft needs to add some form of tutorial to the game. Like, there really is no tutorial, and they hardly talk about any of the operators in the little tiny tutorial that they have, which is T Hunt. So I just think that, in terms of the game, is just terrible. Now, I know this so far this has been mostly focused on the things I don't like about Rainbow Six Siege. And so I'm going to talk about some of the things that I do like about Rainbow Six Siege. I like the competitive aspect of Rainbow Six Siege. I think that as a competitive game, Rainbow Six Siege is amazing. As a game in esports or just in general as a competitive game is amazing. Rainbow Six Siege just fits that role perfectly. And I really like that in Rainbow. I feel like it's something that hardly any other game has managed to do other outside of Rainbow, and so I really like that aspect. And something I talked about earlier, the operators, I really like that. It keeps you engaged in the game because if you have all 29 operators for each side, well, you have a lot of choices, and you can play different characters, and it makes the game more fun because you can play different people every time you play, and they all have different weapons, and that just kind of makes the game fresh every time you play it. Unlike some other games where it just feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again. And I think that really contributes to making Rainbow Six Siege one of my favorite games, personally. Um, so that's most of the things that I really like. I really think that if you're somebody who likes competitive gameplay, if you enjoy uh, being like having a competitive game of an FPS, you will love Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege just fits that role perfectly. Like, Rainbow Six Siege just does such a good job of being a competitive game to where it really, if you're not somebody who wants to play the game competitively, it's just not quite as fun. I'm also not saying that if you're a casual player, you can't play Rainbow Six Siege, because casual people play Rainbow Six Siege all the time. It's just that I personally don't think it's going to be quite as fun for you if you're not like really into a competitive gameplay of a game like Rainbow Six Siege. So that's kind of where I stand with the game as a whole. I I think that it's not going to do well if they don't manage to fix their new player problem, because less and less people that are new are wanting to play Rainbow Six Siege. Even less and less people who are who are played the game for a while are not wanting to play it just because of the sweatiness aspect. But I'm not sure what the future holds for Rainbow, but it is gonna probably last for a while. I mean, they've given their intentions to keep the game alive. It is still regularly updated, even though it was created in 2015. It's a 5-year old game. So, um, I think overall it's a really good game. It probably ranks in my top 5, and just because I love the competitive gameplay of it. So, now I'm going to give you guys my final rating for Rainbow Six Siege. So I've kind of talked about all the ups and all the downs of Rainbow Six Siege for me personally, and I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And I hate to do this because of how much I like this game, but I just can't bring myself to give it higher than a 7 out of 10 because of the issues the game has, that I've talked about in this video. I mean, it just makes it really hard to want to give it higher than a 7. I mean, while I like aspects of the game and I think they do a lot of things right, they do so many things wrong. Specifically, their new player attraction is just so bad, and I think that hurts the game a lot in my eyes. So if you were to ask me if you should try Rainbow Six Siege, here's the answer that I would probably give you. I would say give Rainbow Six Siege a shot. Even if you're not into competitive gameplay, give it a shot. You may not like it, but I think that it deserves some of your time. Like, give it a couple of hours and see what you think after a couple of hours of playing the game. If you absolutely despise the game, you can say, I don't like the game. But I think people looking on the outside in, it just doesn't look as fun as it is to actually play. So I would just say give it a shot. Even if you're not into this uber competitive gameplay that I think Rainbow brings, because there is some casualness in the game as well if you load up into a quick match. And so I think that's about it. So let me know down in the comments section below if you have played Rainbow Six Siege. Let me know what your thoughts are on Rainbow Six Siege. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if this review got you to play the game and you end up hating it, tell me that you hate the game down below. Or if it made you try the game and you love it, let me know in the comments down below. Just let me know what you think about Rainbow Six Siege, because, like I said, it is probably a top 5 game for me. Um, so, yeah. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and turn on the notifications. And without further ado, peace out.